In this video, we will be making windows for miniature buildings using 3D printing technology and the old-school engineering drawing tool.
Hello and welcome to a video tutorial with Marsh in Sweden. Yeah, first off, I would like to send a big thank you to three guys who signed up as patrons since the last video. Slim, Patrick and Paul, awesome. You, together with the 300 other patrons, are really making the foundation on which this channel lies. In terms of being able to renew content, improve technical level of lights and cameras, audio, everything. So a big thank you for signing up and supporting the channel. This video will be spent making windows. Yeah, if you're building like scratch-built buildings, if you have a prototype for your layout, such as your childhood hometown or so, the windows of the buildings is really key to get a prototypic look. And the ability to make windows is very important. And there are basically two good ways to make windows, fairly easy. And the first one is, of course, to 3D print them. And the other one is using an engineering drawing tool. That's the old school method, but it works fine if you don't want the technology path for your creation. And hey, did you know? Have you checked out Anycube's homepage? I'm putting up a link to a competition which is going on right now and closing November 17, where you can win a printer, this new DLP printer, which you can make your own 3D printing with. So if you haven't checked that out, do it. So let's get started first with the 3D printing way of making windows.
So in this video we will make windows for this station, which was built in 1903, mainly this window. I managed to obtain drawings for this station, which makes life a bit easier than just working from photos. The building itself does no longer exist. So you see this window here is on both the long side and the short side. Making 3D models of windows is one of the more easy projects to get started with in Fusion 360. This program is free to download and free to use for hobbyists, so it's just to get started. Inside the program, we're gonna first make a sketch of the window, and the sketch function is found up here. The first thing we need to do is to choose a plane to draw on. We are doing that by clicking on this yellow square. Now, a window consists from a number of different sized rectangles. So we're choosing the 2-point rectangle tool, click on that, then click anywhere on the surface to set the first point of the rectangle. Just move your mouse a bit and you get 2 dimensions, width and height. I typically draw my windows from inside to out, so we're starting with the window panes. In HO scale they're 2.7 by 2.7 millimeters. So write that dimension, click on tab to select the other dimension and write 2.7 there as well. Right, now we have the first window pane in place. To avoid drawing all of the window panes, we can actually copy this and move them into a rectangular pattern. To do this, choose Rectangular Pattern. Let's now first select the 4 lines which makes up our square window pane. Next is to select how many copies we want in vertical and horizontal direction. Since this is the upper window, this contains from 4 window panes, so I want 2 copies in horizontal mode and 2 in vertical. And lastly, we type in the offset distance to get the correct spacing between these. I'm basically repeating the same process to also draw the lower part of the window, which consists from 6 window panes. Starting by drawing the upper leftmost window pane and then multiplying that using the rectangular pattern tool. Alright, now all we need to do to complete the woodwork in the window, or in the windows actually, in the upper and lower, is to draw 2 additional rectangles around each group of window panes. With the windows ready, we can now make the sashes. And all we need to do to create the sashes around these two windows is by adding another rectangle on the outside of both these windows. Again, use the 2-point rectangle tool and type in the dimensions for the sashes. In the same way, we're adding another rectangle on the outside, which makes up the casing around the window. So as you see here, I've only been using like one tool in this entire program and the pattern function, and I've now completed the sketch. What we do now is that we click on this green symbol, finish sketch, and now we're ready to add some thickness onto the surfaces we have created here. We're doing this by using the command extrude. You find it up here next to the sketch. You select the surface you want to extrude. In this case, it's the sashes, and you can either pull in this blue arrow to extrude it to whatever thickness you want, or you can type in the dimension you want in this dialog here. So I'm going to type in 0.5 millimeter. Now we need to click on the eye symbol of the sketch, so we see the sketch again, and then we select the windows. And doing the same routine with them, we add thickness with the extrusion tool. So now everything except the casing has a thickness. What I want to do also is to add some radiuses onto the woodwork in the window. So I'm doing this by selecting all of those surfaces which I want a bit curved. So here I like this, no, a bit more like that. Yeah, that's great. So now the surfaces of the woodwork in the windows is a bit rounded like this. Okay, and here I've also extruded the casing, and then the window looks like this. Then we're ready. Save your project and then choose export to STL format, which is common for 3D printing. And then click on the export button. Now we come into a dialog where it is exporting it. It's complete. Let's then open it in Photon Ultra Workshop. So here's our window now, ready to be printed. As you see, it's on the surface, so we need to elevate it 5 millimeter to make room for supports. And why do we want supports since it's already on the surface? Well, it will not be possible to remove this window if it's fixed to the surface, I can tell you that. So I'm using medium supports for the outer frame here to get some stability, and the light supports for the inner part of the window. Alright, so here's our window now really ready to be printed. Now, if you like, you can multiply this by adding additional copies of the window. You can print as many as you like, or as many as you can fit onto the print surface. So I think I could probably print all of the windows I need for this building in one batch. And the print time for a thin object like this is just 20 minutes, so it's kind of fast. However, I like to make a single print for a test in every new project. So I'm slicing that, checking the preview so it looks good. No layers missing. Then save that print file onto a USB. Insert it into your Photon Ultra. Turn the power on and then start by selecting the UV power. The resin I'm using wants 80% UV power, so I got that set. So that let's go back again, choose print, and here's our window. So tooling a window, there it is. We can now remove the hood, put the gloves on, and pour some resin into that jar. So you don't have to fill the jar because this window will only require a few milliliter of resin. Now we can go for the print, and the print head is lowered into that resin. And the outline of the bottom plate, which is printed first, is shown in the display. So after like 20 minutes, the print is ready. We deattach that print head and move it into that jar with 97% ethanol. So with the print head clean, we can focus on our print and remove the window carefully from the support. And here it is. Well, not that bad. One thing when you want to imitate wood, we need to add some texture in this glossy surface. To do this, I'm typically using 120 or 240 grit sanding paper. Just scratch the surface a bit like this. Both the vertical parts of the casing and the horizontal parts. Alright, so now we're ready to paint this. And this can either be painted with a paintbrush or, like I'm doing here, with an airbrush, depending on what kind of tools you have at hand. The acrylic paint sticks well to this type of resin, so there's no need for primer. Last action now, before we can assemble the window into the house, is to glue a piece of transparent plastic. I typically save scrap packages from products to do this. Glue it in place using fast set glue. And here is the window ready for assembly. Now, the old school method of making prototypic windows is by using a drawing tool. This method has been exalted in my area to almost like a black art. In books and magazines, I've read about the artists who are able to draw that perfect straight line. And all of the windows you see here are made using this method, which we will fully demystify during the 5 coming minutes. First off, we need a ballpoint pen, preferably black, and millimeter paper. I guess you guys in the US who have Imperial System have something similar. The blue pattern in the paper allows you to draw very precise drawings. To increase detail even further, I'm drawing the windows 10 times bigger than the actual dimensions for HO scale. So let's get started with our window panes again. And you know by now that they should be 2.7 by 2.7, and there should be 4 of them in the upper window and another 6 of them in the lower window. Here I'm also drawing in the same manner as in the 3D CAD software, the window sashes for the 2 windows. All we need to do now is to add that casing on the outside. So here comes the casing as well. I then take the paper with the drawn window, put it into my scanner and scan it into my computer. I then multiply the window inside a software and then print it to HO scale on my printer. If you don't have access to a scanner or printer or a photocopier, you have to draw all the windows in scale on a row like this on the millimeter paper. The base material in the windows will be plastic. This is stiff plastic from some scrap packaging I've been saving from some product I bought in the past. So I tape this to the table with the underlying image of my windows. The drawing tool we need is most often included in sets like this. A set like this, this is a Swiss-made, really nice, costs no more than $20 or 20 euros on eBay. The drawing tool itself looks like this. It has a set screw where you can set the distance between the 2 metal tips, which in turn will set the width of the drawn line. The preferred type of paint is Humbrol. I will be painting white windows, so I've selected the number 34 matte white. I cannot recommend using acrylic paints because they dry too fast. Please note that this can of mine has not been thinned, so it has the original viscosity of a Humbrol paint. The reason for saying this is that the viscosity has some impact on the drawing properties of the paint. I use a toothpick, both to identify the viscosity and to load paint into the drawing tool. If the paint is too thick, it will be hard to get the flow started. It will only allow for slow drawing speed and the overall flow will be poor. If it's too thin, it will start with a pool of paint at the starting point and the line will be prone to float out. Now look at the drops of paint coming from the toothpick. This is the viscosity I like to have when I'm using the drawing tool. Let's now load some paint into the drawing tool. The probably most common mistake when using a drawing tool like this is to load too much paint into the tool, and then it will float all over and cause a mess. So as you see here, I'm only loading 4 drops into the tool. Then hold it for a moment in a kind of vertical position so the paint floats to the tip. And now we're about to start painting our lines. Paint on the outside of the tool is removed using a cotton swab. We also need a plastic scale for this. As you see, this scale is shaped in a way so if you put it upside down, there will be a clearance between the point where we're drawing and the underlying plastic surface. Make a test line and then adjust the screw for the width of the sashes. Make a mark there using a pencil. This way you know exactly the width of the sashes. So now we can start drawing the top sashes of all the windows in a line here. Try to maintain a constant drawing speed along the entire line. Now the next line would be a thinner one. It's the woodwork inside a window. So for this I'm adjusting the screw to about quarter past. At least on my tool that gives me the width perfect for this thinner wood inside the window. Alright, so and the next one is the thicker line again. It's a sash in between the upper and the lower window. So I'm adjusting back to the original setting and drawing that line as well. Now I continue like this until I've completed all of the horizontal line. Then I leave this to dry a few hours or overnight, so I'm sure that the white paint has dried completely before I start drawing the vertical lines in the same manner. Always remember to make more windows than you actually need, because all of them will not be all that perfect. Now it's time for the casing. For this you can either use a strip styrene or like I'm doing, I'm using wood for that. So I'm selecting this 1 by 4 inch scale lumber from Northeastern. I arrange my 2 steel scales like this and cut the vertical parts first here to length using my one-sided razor blade. Spread some facet glue onto some scrap material, then dip the sashes into that and place them onto your window plastic. Then go ahead with the top as well. And once you're ready and cut the windows out, you just paint the edges. Alright, so 2 windows ready for the station. So that's basically how you draw your windows using the drawing tool.
Alright, so there you got 2 different methods of making prototypic windows, both the 3D print method and the old school engineering drawing tool method. So if you haven't got a 3D printer, resin-based printer yet, check out Anycube's competition, which is going on right now, where you can win one of these new Photon Ultra printers. So I'm putting up a link for that. Just click on the link and you will end up on that competition page. Did you know that this channel is totally dependent on its patrons who's supporting the channel with like $1 or $2 or $5 per month? This is because this is a kind of niche interest with the model railroading. The mainstream interest with millions of views, they are probably doing well and will be able to run their channels just based on the view counts on YouTube. But for model railroading, not. So if you want to see more of this channel and you have use of the content here, please be part of the Patreon community. Get over there, set up a support account from like $1 or $2 per month, or make a one-off donation using the PayPal dialog found in the video description below. And don't forget to subscribe and enable that little bell, and you will get a notification once next video gets published. Until that happens, see ya.